Good afternoon. It's about time we had a sunny day where I could sit back outside. Right, so we're going to talk about an incident when I was 14, 15 years old. And in terms of severity, it was pretty severe. In terms of how retarded it classifies me during those years of my life, there's no question in it. My recidivism, repeat offending, and my institutionalisation, my ability to feel comfortable being locked up and not be in the community, is sort of highlighted by my actions on this day. Now, I'd been in Ashley's for about 10 months, and myself and 6 others had been allowed to go on a caving trip. So we were going with staff that were qualified in like the sport and rec stuff and to go caving. And basically, we hadn't discussed about escaping this day. I had 6 days left, like 6 days left in custody, and I'd have been free. No charges, no time hanging over my head, nothing like that. But for whatever reason, Spastic here and his mate at the time, who was a bit older than me, when we got to the Mole Creek Caves, we were all allocated bags. And as you can imagine, caves are cold, dark, wet, all the rest of it. These bags had like clear slips in places on the outside of the bag, or some of them were like zip up clear cases on the inside of the bag that were waterproof. And it just so happened that the bag that they give my mate, they put the car keys or the van keys into that backpack. So he's walking in front of me at some point, and I look up with my head torch and I shine it on the back of his backpack, and I can see the van keys in the back of his bag. And again, I had 6 days left. I don't know what I was thinking. I clearly wasn't thinking. But yeah, I explained to him that he had the keys to the van in his bag. He still had, I don't know, 6 months or something left on his sentence, which is not a long time. Like, I know people might hear that and go, well, 6 days is a long time if you're not used to being locked up, but 6 months is definitely a long time, but not to us. And yeah, basically, we carried on through the caves for a fair while with the staff and the other detainees. And at some point, I took the keys out of the back of his bag, and we had a little quick discussion and decided that we were going to hang back, let them go a fair way when we got to a part where we felt like we could disappear and hide and throw our backpacks and take off back to the van, which is exactly what we did. And upon getting to the van, we literally just pressed the central locking button, jumped in, and took off back towards Launceston. We, as soon as we got to Launceston, we went to a couple of my friends' places, changed our clothes, got scissors, ditched the van, and was picked up. We ditched the van at the Waverley Lake, and then left. We actually wrote a note for one of the staff members that took us on that excursion, because he was actually a good staff member, and we actually felt terrible for escaping on him. But at the end of the day, we were immature, we were young, and we were bad criminals. We didn't think. He should have been grateful he got a note, put it that way. But yeah, we were picked up by a good friend of mine, Patrick McDonald, and yeah, he took us to another good friend of mine, and we stayed there until night time. And basically, we walked the back tracks of Ravenswood to Mowbray, where we went to another friend's place of mine, as my other mate, who was older than me and who had escaped with me, was from Hobart. And yeah, basically, once we got there, we got gloves and balaclavas and things like that, and we set out that night to steal a car and make our way to Hobart. Now, as I said, I had 6 days left. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, after about an hour and a half of walking the streets of Launceston, breaking into cars, trying to steal cars, we ended up stealing one and making our way straight to Hobart. Now, unfortunately, I've outlined this in other videos. Our immaturity and our inability to identify our actions were ruining other people's lives, unfortunately cost another person who was a really good friend of mine for a really long time, one of my best friends actually. But yeah, he was free. He had no charges. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He'd been to Ashley's before already, but he was out free doing his thing. And yeah, the day after we got to Hobart, we obviously slept that night, and then the very next day was where we started our drug bender. We just was on the amphetamines, injecting amphetamines every couple of hours to stay awake and stay on the ball. Just we were on the run now, and yeah, lunchtime that following day, we went and picked my mate up, who you know, just come with us with no second thought, even though we were now on the run from the detention centre. We were all over the news, newspapers, you name it. And unfortunately, over that next 4 or 5 days, we would go on to, you know, have 25 high-speed cop chases. We rammed police vehicles. We'd done smash and grabs all over the state. We stole nearly $500,000 worth of cigarettes in that 5 days, smashing into Woolworths. Well, they were Roll Vosses back then, but Woolworths. Yeah, we were trying to steal safes from chemists. We done all sorts of fucking shit. And ultimately, on the 5th day, you know, we'd been running amok. I've got newspaper articles and stuff, like, from when it all happened, and it's just carnage. Like, dots all over the map of Tasmania of crimes that they were alleging we committed and were ultimately convicted of when we went to court, because we all just pled guilty to everything we were basically charged with, if we done it, obviously. And yeah, to cut the story real short, because I'm not going to go into the details of all the crimes and this, that, the other, but on the 5th or 6th day of us being on the run from Ashley's, we had obviously caused carnage. We had fucking rammed police cars, like I said, done ram raids, smash and grabs. A lot of shit had happened in that 5 days, so it had got to the point where Tas police were just like, nah, it ends today. And we actually broke into a house, and well, we were driving around looking for another car to steal, because we'd been chased in this car that we were in probably 8 times in the last hour and a half, 2 hours. And we decided that we had to get out of that vehicle, but we couldn't just ditch the vehicle and not have another vehicle. So we did everything we could to find another vehicle. And we watched 2 vehicles with 3 people, one in each, 2 in another, leave a house early hours in the morning. It would have been 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. And basically, we went and broke into that house, and there was a sports car in the shed. The roller door was locked, but we decided if we break into the house, we'll be able to get the keys to the car. So we've gone to break into this house, and the back sliding door was just unlocked. Now, it was a relatively big house, and yeah, we were in there ransacking it, looking for the car keys, doing this, doing that, and after about 3 or 4 minutes, we hear like a woman yell out, "Is that you, Bobby?" And we've just panicked, you know what I mean? Straight away. We had the car keys at this point. We were just looking for valuables and shit, and we all just straight out of there. Ran out into the shed. We'd been struggling to get the roller door open, so we just fucking ripped it open, made it. We'd already been sprung, or that's how we'd seen it. And yeah, basically ripped this roller door clean up, high enough to get the car out. Jumped in the car. My mate was driving, and he reversed it straight down the driveway, side-swiped the whole side of the car on the house, and we just took off. Now, you got to understand, none of us are over 16 at this point, so we weren't the smartest of criminals. And once we got away from the house, we realised that we only had a quarter of a tank of petrol in the car. Now, this was the mistake we made that cost us got us caught that day. One, we should never have taken that car from that house, because there was a woman there, and she clearly would have got up, and when no one answered her, we just took off out of the house, and she would have heard us sideswipe the house, this, that, the other. So we should have ditched that car immediately, but we didn't. We decided that we were going to go to the BP at Brighton, fill it up with petrol, and then drive out, you can only go left or right back then, towards the north or back into the south, Hobart, Launceston. and we made the mistake of going left towards Launceston after just not paying for a full tank of petrol in a car that we'd basically just got in a house burglary / home invasion because someone was home and we didn't know they were there. So once we got, wouldn't have been 20 minutes up the highway towards Launceston, the other two boys were actually arguing over who was going to drive the rest of the way to Launceston, because this was a sick sports car, like a two-door. It wasn't a convertible, but it had a mad sunroof, and it was a mad little car back in 2004, 5, whatever it was. And basically, literally 2 minutes after they had just swapped seats so that old mate could drive, who was wanting to drive it, we're driving up the road and I can hear this noise. So I'm sitting in the back seat and you can hear this woo, 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 and I thought we had a flat tyre or something. I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard a helicopter hovering above your car about 100 metres above you. And anyway, we just kept driving, and at some point I've gone and looked out the back window of this little two-door hatchback, and I can see this fucking helicopter right above us. And naturally I panicked and said, "There's a fucking helicopter above us." And I've swapped seats immediately because the one who was originally driving was a much better driver than myself and the other bloke in the car. And anyway, we sort of played it cool and just thought maybe they're just, they're not after us. Like I said, young and dumb. After about 5 minutes, we realised like they flew ahead of us and turned around and were flying backwards, looking at us and we realised that they were chasing us. And straight away we've swung a Yui in the car, but at this point we're 30-40 minutes out of Hobart. We've swung around, and literally as soon as we turned around, we realised that there would have been a dozen cop cars coming up like behind us, and they were only 1 kilometre, 2 kilometres behind us, so they were sort of hanging back. I reckon they were going to, wait to try and intercept us somewhere and just come out of nowhere all up from behind us. But because we turned around, we're driving back past them, and it's just like boom, 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 car after car after car, uniform cars, D cars, 4-wheel drive, you name it. And we started speeding, obviously, flying back towards Hobart because we were on the highway. We realised that if they blocked the highway off in front of us and behind us, being in a real low 2-door sports car, we had no escape. Like, there was no way we were going to ram through them or any of that shit. So basically we just started driving really erratically back towards Hobart, and when we got I can't think what it's called, but it's a place probably 25 minutes out of Hobart. We'd been overtaking cars on the inside on a 2-lane highway when we'd come flying up behind the car doing 100, 110, we're doing 180, 200, and we wouldn't be able to go around them on the highway. Old mate started going phoomp, and just going 2 wheels on the gravel, 2 wheels on the road. We even took off a couple of people's passenger side mirrors as we were doing this because we couldn't go further to the left because we would have went down an embankment. But this happened probably 10 times, and on 3 or 4 of those occasions he was swerving back onto the highway just a little bit too hard, or we were fucking doing 180, 200 kilometres an hour, and me and my other mate were saying, "Stop doing that, stop doing that." I can feel like you could feel the car wanting to slide out when he was going woof back onto the highway off the gravel. And he just didn't listen. And basically after about the 10th or 11th time, we've come flying up behind this car, and he's gone throomp onto the gravel, and as soon as we went past the car, he's gone throomp, and we just went throomp, 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 throomp. And it was something out of the movies, I swear to God. Like, we were spinning out of control on a 2-lane highway with only 3/4 of the width of a car on our side, and on the other side of gravel, and then bang, embankments. And I swear to God, we were spinning out doing a 1080, doing 180, 200 clicks down this highway, and after about 2 seconds of spinning out like that, because you can't see when you're going that fast obviously, we just hear this big truck on its horn straight past us as we spun like that. And then we've just managed somehow, because he was still trying to steer the car and get control of it, but we were spinning like that. And we've gone down the embankment that we swerved off on. Bang, 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 hit 5, 6 trees, one after the other, just boom, 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 down on the embankment and a farm fence line. Now, I've pointed this car accident site out to so many people because by all means, we should have died just off this accident. Like, we were in a little 2-door sports car, we lost control at about 200 kilometres an hour, and we spun out probably 8, 9 times and then went down an embankment and just rid this car off. Like, I mean, it was totaled. And the only way we could get out was through the, like, next to the front glove box windscreen, because the rest of the car was just crushed. Not one of us had an injury on us. And when we jumped out of this car, obviously we'd smoked heaps of the coppers, and there was none, like, right there pulling up to, like, arrest us. There was just none in sight. The only thing that was still there was the helicopter. Where we lost control and went down that embankment and jumped out of that car, you could do a full 360 and there was not a property, not a vehicle, nothing in sight except for a farmhouse with 2 big sheds and a big ass, like, grain tank about 600, 700 metres through this paddock and over about 5 farm fences on the same side that we crashed. Still to this day, there's no other properties around. Like, it's just that one property. And naturally, having just rid our car off, we're on the run from Ashley's and we're going to keep trying to escape. We've all just started running towards that house. Now, when we got there, I jumped the front fence to go, like, for the house, because I just, we weren't thinking. And the other 2 ran around the back of the house, and as soon as they come around the back of the house, I'm literally trying to break into the house and find my way in, whatever, and bang, they are jumping on the horn, beep, 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 revving this 4-wheel drive, and it was just ironic. A 3-seater 4-wheel drive with 3/4 of a tank of petrol with the keys in the ignition was on that property. Being a farm property, isolated, they just would not have expected 3 criminals to crash on the highway and run down their keys are in the car, you know what I mean? But by the time, when we were running through that paddock, that's the other thing, the helicopter was getting really low and, like, spitting, like, debris up in our faces, and they were screaming at us over this microphone to lay down and surrender and this, that, the other. And by the time we jumped in that 4-wheel drive, all 3 of us, and started speeding back towards the highway, like out their exit, their driveway exit to get back onto the highway, there was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 cop cars that were parked, like, at the big ass gate to get out of this driveway. At this point, we were so affected by drugs, we were so scared, we were so hyped up that we were trying to get away, that, yeah, old mate just banged it back to third and put the foot down. And because they could see that we were coming at them doing 140, 150 kilometres on a dirt track, and all that was there was a big steel gate, but we still would have folded it in half and then probably done a front flip by 5 over these cop cars if we'd have just rammed into them. So they've literally seen us coming down this gravel track and realised that we weren't slowing down. So they've just reversed all their cars out of the way, and we just slammed straight through this fence and sent it flying, like ripped it clean off its hinges, and we just drove straight through it. And then, yeah, obviously clipped a couple of them on the way out. Well, I wouldn't say accidentally, but yeah, they had moved so that we could get through, but we ploughed through that gate that hard that it sort of, threw us off balance a bit. But again, as always, I would like to apologise to everyone involved in that day, the people on the highway, the people that witnessed the crash, the people whose cars we near had head-ons, we've overtaken other vehicles, the lady who was in the house when we stole the vehicle. There's so many people that I could apologise to for that 5-6 days of mayhem and that madness. But in totality, I just want to apologise to everyone that was affected by it. But yes, once we ran through that gate and clipped a couple of the cop cars on the way out of there, things really amped up after that. Like, I think they realised that we'd just gone from being in a sports car to now we were in a 3-seater Hilux with a bull bar, and we were just fucking driving through gates, ramming cars out of the way. Like, they obviously knew they had to bring us into custody as soon as possible. And basically we made it to Gagebrook. So the whole time from that incident, because it, you know, sort of took 3-4 minutes for everything to happen after we crashed and get to the other vehicle and get off the property. They'd obviously radioed ahead and said, like, look, this is the situation. These cunts are just going nuts. Like, they're going to kill themselves. They're going to kill other people. We need to bring this to an end. And yeah, for the next, say, 15 minutes until we made it to Gagebrook, we'd been road spiked. They were throwing rocks, battens, you name it, shit at the windscreens, like officers on the side of the road, you know. There's obviously cars and carloads of them. They were pulling up, and then, like, we'd be fucking hammering along, and next thing you know, boosh, the window would just get smashed out, and you wouldn't even see it coming, because it wasn't like there was cops standing on the side of the road. They were just plainclothes officers that had been designated a task to bring it to an end, you know. The first time we got spiked, it was some old dude in like a basketball looking jacket. Like, he was just sort of walking down the road like this, and it looked like he had, I don't know, like, you couldn't really tell what he had, but it was a big rolled up lot of spikes, and it was like he had an earpiece or something in, or a radio, and they've gone, now, and he didn't even look backwards at us, because he was obviously being communicated with, and he's just gone whoosh, and thrown this big roll of spikes straight across the road. We missed it with the front wheels, but it got the back wheels, and that's not ideal when you're driving the way we were driving. But he spiked one of the back wheels, so now we had a flat tyre. This happened probably 5 or 6 more times, like random people, not uniform officers, because obviously that's a dead giveaway if you're driving down the road in a cop chase and there's a uniform officer standing there, whatever, you know what I mean? They were all plain clothes, people that were trying to spike us and throwing shit at our windscreens and trying to peg battens at our heads through the drivers and passenger side windows and all this sort of stuff. And we made it to Bridgewater, and once we started going from Bridgewater to Gagebrook, that's where it really got serious. Like, they started ramming. I think they realised that we were trying to get out of the southern suburbs of Hobart and into Greater Hobart, which is where we would have stood a much better chance of losing the helicopter and getting away. So once we got there, that was it. They got serious. It was like, I'm telling you, it was something out of a fucking movie. Like, it was terrifying. I won't lie. Like, when you're in the passenger seat with someone that is driving the way he was driving and we were all drugged off our heads, like, you know, teenagers completely drugged off our heads. There was no thought of death. There was no thought of serious injury. There was no thought of killing an innocent person because of us trying to just escape to be a criminal piece of shit for another day. So, trust me, although we weren't screaming, oh, I'm scared, I don't want to die. Trust me, that's what we were all fucking thinking. But long story short, you know, like how in parks and cul-de-sacs they have them big-ass boulders, like, to stop cars and not so much bikes, but cars going into parks and stuff like that. Well, at one point we got into Gagebrook and we went down this street, and we went to turn around, and there was fucking, literally, I'm not fucking with you, 20, 25 cop cars coming towards us, and they were just mounting the gutters, going up on people's driveways and ripping handbrakes to turn their cars to block us in so that we couldn't get out. They just used a wall of cars to trap us in this street. So, naturally, what do? You start driving at 70, 80 kilometres an hour at them boulders and just hope to God you go over them, which we did. But, tell you now, it smashed my eyebrow, smashed my mate's nose, smashed my other mate's lip and cheekbone, because you've got to understand, it's like driving into a brick wall. Like, I don't know how we drove over it or how the car kept going afterwards, but anyway, it did. There was another point down at the bottom side of Gagebrook where there was literally a dozen cop cars behind us, ramming us, trying to pit manoeuvre us, and we were flying through the paddock, and we just didn't see it. It was like a massive big dip in the land, and we're flying along, and then next thing you know, the car's like this. Like, it just, the arse end just tipped right up like that, and we thought it was just going to keep going and we were going to flip, and then it just sort of like, we just went like that. Boom, and it come back down. Oh, it was terrifying. But ultimately, we got back to the top side of Gagebrook, and same deal. We went down another street. We've got 2 or 3 or 4 flat tyres at this point. We're basically driving on the rims. And yeah, same deal. They tried to block us into this cul-de-sac, and the boulders were a little bit big this time to go around, and old mate literally just went down someone's driveway and then drove straight through their fence to get into the park and all the rest of it to get out of there. But we ended up back on the top side of Gage Brook, and if you know Gage Brook, where the big lip is near the bridge to go off that cliff, I don't know Gage Brook that well, but trust me, if we drove off that ledge, I don't think we would have survived. But the cops knew that, and once they got us into that area, it was like, again, like they just had extra cars sitting back waiting to pin us in there, because the moment we went in there, we literally drove down, realised we weren't going to be able to drive down this massive big embankment or we'd just probably die. We've turned around, and this isn't an exaggeration, there would have been 60 plus police vehicles, marked, unmarked, four-wheel drives, you name it. There was fucking 60 vehicles blocking us in on this cliff edge, and now we were fucked. There was no way we were getting out of there. There was no fences to drive through, no rocks to drive over. There was just a 25 or 20 metre drop like that. And if we were in a four-wheel drive, but at the bottom was a road, that went that way. So if we went down there, it would have just pushed the bull bar into our faces, basically. Now, for the next half hour, 45 minutes, there was officers with guns. They weren't pointing their guns at us, but because we were repeatedly doing donuts in this big-ass area and then driving towards them as close as we could without risking their lives, basically, and then he'd rip on it and turn around and go away, they would draw their guns like getting ready to shoot at us because he was endangering their lives, you know what I mean? And obviously the adrenaline and stuff was pumping, but by this point, it had sort of worn off. The novelty of near dying 100 times in the space of 40 minutes had worn off. And we were all highly agitated, highly emotional. We were all crying and arguing with each other about what we were going to do, how we were going to get out of this, should we surrender, should we do that, whatever. But ultimately we decided we weren't surrendering, and we would just see it out. Whatever the end result would be, would see it out. So after half hour of playing this cat and mouse, officers would draw their guns and try and, come closer to the vehicle, and they wouldn't be pointing their guns at us, but they'd have their guns drawn and they'd try and get close to the vehicle, and we'd just bang, start it back up, start doing donuts, driving towards them, swerving away from them, whatever. And they'd run back to safety, obviously, because we're in four-wheel drive. But basically, after about 30 minutes, we were all hyperventilating of doing that. We were hyperventilating, so we couldn't breathe. We needed water, we needed fluids, because all our lips were cracked, and because we were so dehydrated from being on the drugs and going through such an extreme event for fucking so long. This went on for an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes from the moment we realised that helicopter was above us. So it was intense. And at some point the cops worked out that they could get one of the driver's relatives to come towards us with his hands up and try and talk to us, and he bought us smokes and a lighter, whatever else, and he was at the window talking to us saying, look, they just want you to surrender, they're not going to bash you, they're not going to hurt you if you surrender, doesn't matter what you have done, just surrender, you aren't safe, they're talking about shooting you if you drive at them again, rah rah rah, all this stuff, trying to scare us and get us to surrender. And basically this went on for probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes. He kept coming to us, and we'd demand other things. We'd say, nah, we want more smokes, we want bottles of water, we want fucking whatever. And that was fine. He kept going backwards and forwards, bringing us bottles of water, bringing us this, that. And on about the fourth time back to the car, he's leaning on the edge of the four-wheel drive like that, talking to us, and he's gone bang and ripped the keys out of the ignition and ran back to the cops. And me and me mate in the passenger side, we jumped straight out and just tried to run, obviously, like retarded. The driver just undone his door, laid straight down on the ground and surrendered. We both got a fair way away. We standed more chance getting away on foot at this point than we did in that car, because we couldn't get the car out of that paddock. So at least on foot, we got a couple of streets away. And I literally, because the helicopter can only chase one person, obviously, and we both went different ways, chased me mate because he was a bit faster than me at the time. He got away like further than I did, but because it chased him, I was able to actually hide for probably, felt like 5 minutes, but it would have been more like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, under one of those big blue shells that kids swim in and you put sand in. I thought I'd gotten away, but didn't realise I was underneath this shell, hyperventilating. Like, I could not hold my breath, I could not be quiet, and before you know it, I got my head stomped on straight through that shell. Like, they didn't even lift it up and go, gotcha! They just fucking jumped on my head straight through the top of it, and I didn't even see it coming. I was just laying under there like trying to get my breath back. But long story short, we were all arrested that day. We were all put before the courts that night and charged with about, as I said, $500,000 worth of cigarettes from 3 or 4 different smash and grabs on Roll Vosses or / Woolworths now, trying to steal a safe with $80,000 worth of money and medication and all this shit in it from a chemist. We were just over a dozen police chases, ramming of police vehicles, you name it. Like, we were charged with it. We all had 50 or 60 charges each, and we were put before the courts that night, and about midnight, 3 vehicles rocked up and picked us all up from the Hobart Remand Centre and took us all straight back to Ashley's. Probably 3 months later, 2 or 3 months later, me and me mate who had escaped from Ashley's, we obviously went back and were put on mandatory lockdowns, 23.5 hours a day, 1 phone call, 10 minutes, and 20 minutes exercise. Our mate that we picked up and whose life we ruined at that point, because as I said, he's just come on this crazy 5-day crime carnage spree when he was free. He didn't escape from Ashley's. He didn't have a charge. He wasn't out on bail. He was a free man, a free child. And because of the influence of me and the other one, he chose to come with us and just engage in all the things that we were engaging in. Using drugs, doing ram raids, having cop chases, risking his life day in, day out. Like, literally 10 times a day we were risking our lives in these chases because they were just madness. And you know, I spoke about this in other videos. It makes me feel sick thinking about how many times my actions and my influence more than anything, because very few people could influence me as a child. Like, they couldn't say, oh, you know, we're going to do this, you coming? Yeah, okay, I'll come, because I wanted to be a part of something. It wasn't like that for me. I'm not saying it was for him either. But when you're close with people like we all were, it's hard to say no when they're making it appealing. They make it look sexy. They make it look exciting. They make danger look great. I used to make danger sound like the most amazing time of your life, when in reality, it could cost you your life and your freedom, your family, your partners, your ability to walk if you have a serious act. Like, anyway, we all went back to Ashley's, and after about 3 months, we were all sentenced in the Hobart courts, and me being the youngest, I think I'd only just turned 15 when we escaped. So I got 18 months, and I believe they both got, my mate who didn't escape got 2 years, and my other mate who did escape got 2.5. So I guess the moral of the story is this: like, how bad do you have to be in the head mentally? How dysfunctional does your life have to be have just done a year's detention, and yet you've got 6 days left, but you decide to escape and get yourself another 18 months? That's the moral of the story. Like, I guess I've done a lot of these videos where I'm trying to outline that when you have underlying mental health issues, when you are not medicated, when you refuse to be truthful about your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, and your darkest fears and all the insecurities that you have as a young person, let alone as an adult, bad things are bound to happen, because you're not thinking clearly, your emotions aren't in touch with reality, your thoughts aren't in touch with reality, and your actions are disturbing, because the reality is, if you're not in touch with reality, you're making decisions based off of impulse. Oh, there's cars, there's keys to the car there, let's take it and escape. I had 6 days left. Like, I guess the moral of the story is this. I've said it several times and I want to keep running it home. If you're a young person or an adult making decisions that you fully well know are going to cost you your freedom, your family, your partner, your children, any of these things, your life, whatever's going on in your life to make you make them decisions, these kind of behaviours will not help. They will only make them worse. You need to get real help. You need to ask the people who matter to you to listen to you and take on what you say to try and get you the help you need, because I'm not sitting here saying that if I had a perfect family, they could have helped me, because I don't believe that's the case. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I had enough people in my life that were straight, that were adults, that would have been able, if I'd have been honest, to help me, to get me the help I needed, rather than just existing in a world masking my emotions, masking my fears and my pain and my suffering by self-medicating, not taking proper medication, not engaging correctly with community services and correctional services, therapeutic services, specialists, all this stuff. It's a combination of things, because at the end of the day, there's not one fix for everyone and there's not one fix for everything. I hate to think that if I'd have just been honest and, broken down and cried and talked about my father's death and talked about my mother's household and talked about how I felt neglected by all my siblings and didn't feel like I fit in, so I had to run away from home all the time, and I tried to make other connections with other people that were toxic as fuck. If I thought my household at my mother's was toxic as fuck, the relationships that I built outside that household were fucking demonic, toxic as fuck. Because there's no point going on about it, but when you've got stuff wrong with you, hiding it isn't gonna fix it. Hiding it will only make it worse. Trying to, as I said in a couple other videos, now that I'm my authentic self, that I am completely drug free and I can talk about the kind of things and the kind of young man and young adult that I was, it makes me so sad, to know that there are still people who I considered really close to me living that life, hurting their partners, hurting their children, hurting their families, and more than anything, hurting themselves, self-sabotaging their lives, their relationships, the people they love, the things they care about, all because they are unable to be honest with themselves, all because they are unable to address what's really wrong. That's hurtful to me, knowing that that's how my life went the way it did and how a lot of people's lives are still the way they are. But yeah, I just want to apologise to everyone that was affected that day. Days 5-6 days. It's hard for me now, because I only have to think of the minorest of things I've done when they come to property crimes, and I wouldn't call them victimless crimes, but when you've done the kind of things I've done, when I think about even the smallest of things that I've done that have affected people's lives, I get I feel disgusted. That's the only way to put it. I just think, imagine if the people who I hold dearest now to me, the people that I care the most about, would do the most for, would do anything for, if someone done the things that I did to all these people throughout my life, if someone done that to them, how I would feel. I just want to say I'm sorry. That's all I can do. And continue to try and make up for the harm that I've caused by trying to put positivity back into the community, and especially our community, Tasmania. I can't take anything back. It's not about that. For me, doing these videos also helps me deal with my guilt, my shame, and the anger that I still hold on myself and against myself and within myself for the scum that I was. That's basically, on top of everyone's support for the messages they send, the comments they make on these videos, that's pretty much what gets me through this. Doing these videos every day is knowing that I'm doing the right thing And hopefully it helps people and it guides other young people and adults, men and women, to not live that life, to not lie about what's going on in your head and your heart. And yeah, it's so hard to be your authentic self when you've lied to yourself for so long. Trust me, I fucking know. And here's the thing. When you're not being authentic, you'll only get disingenuous people around you. People that'll blow smoke up your ass. People that'll tell you they love you and then stab you in the fucking back the next. People that will steal from you and then blame someone else that they say they love and care about. People that will lie to you in such a way that it could cause you serious harm, violence, or death. People that will lure you to places knowing full well you're going to have to fight or someone's going to attack you, or that's what happens when you lie to yourself. You allow people around you that will also lie to you, manipulate you, use you, throw you under the bus. So this is what helps me. I don't give a fuck that people keep, I won't say they keep doing it, but it's becoming a consistent thing now where at least once every 3 to 5 days, people want to reach out to me and question my actions, question my decisions, and they're positive ones. These videos, people want to run me down and say, oh, have you thought about this? Oh, did you think about that? Oh, how's it going to affect him, her, them? I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. You never said one positive thing to me when I was the worst version of myself. You never once tried to help me see a better path when I was the worst version of myself. And now that I'm being my authentic, loving, caring self, my guilt-ridden, shameful, self-reflective, self-accountable self, you want to try and tell me to think, act, and behave differently? Shut the fuck up. Let's be serious. Shut the fuck up. Sorry for the language, but you know, that's how I see it. Shut the fuck up. If you can watch someone that you say you care about live their life the way I live mine and not say a fucking positive word about it, well, let me rephrase that. Oh, geez, you're crazy, mate. Oh, everyone knows you, your reputation. Shut the fuck up. That's what I was saying. When you live that life and you live a lie, that's what people will do. They'll blow smoke up your ass and they'll validate your poor behaviour. They'll validate your scumminess. Why? Because it benefits them. That's why. So, for all those people that keep using fake accounts or their real names, I don't give a fuck. Shut the fuck up. I'm sick of hearing your shit. All right. Everyone have a good day and God bless. The sun's out. Let's go.